Fitness, I feel it is a gateway drug for success.
It's a gateway drug for success.
That is the start to everything changing. A better relationship with your significant other, a better relationship with your kids, a better leader at work. Everything you do is better.
You're not always motivated to go work out, right? You're not always motivated to go train to be the Olympian, right? You have to have the discipline to do so.
That's what makes greatness. It's not the big bang thing. It's the little things done every single day, regardless of how you feel. That's called discipline.
I do think that some people genuinely have the misconception that it does require 45 to 60 minutes to like make any sort of a difference.
You have enough time in your day for the things that matter most to you.
What's up, Nick? So we got to meet at the Origin Jiu-Jitsu camp. And, as we were talking, you were saying, hey, you're going to go on vacation. You're going to spend some time. And we just started wrapping before we started recording. You're like, hey, it's the first time that I was able to take a vacation and not work. And so I'd love to dive into that a little bit before we move on to a bunch of other stuff. Yeah. Just in the sense of like, how did you get to the point that you got to that point? As an entrepreneur, I think it's really difficult at times, at least I'm speaking for myself, to not want to like always be on. And so how did you get to that point? And then, what did it feel like? What does that feel like, Nick?
Well, it to be honest, initially it feels very nerve-wracking. Like you feel like you're like, I don't know what to do with my hands, right? Like, and the whole thing is, you sit on the beach and have a frappe espresso and, you watch the sunset and then it's done, right? Now it's like, okay, cool. I sat here for 30 minutes, watched the sunset. Now what? You know what I mean? Especially for, somebody who's a quick start. If you follow the, like the Colby method, like somebody who's like a high quick start, I would imagine you're like a very quick start type of guy. Like you have an idea, you're like, let's run with it. I don't need all the details. You know what I mean? Like I can picture it all in my head. Let's start working, and most entrepreneurs are like that. And then we lack in some other areas that we need people on our team to be able to like fill the back, the carnage that we leave in our wake as we create, right? But as I've been doing this for 12 years, obviously I have done an enormous amount of personal growth and self-work, right? To develop my skills and develop myself as a person, but also to develop my team. And it was always, if you really want to grow, you have to be able to let grow of the vine and give your team the opportunity to shine. And to be 100% transparent I've done that a lot over the years, but this is the first time where I really just said, and I pressure test the team before, and then I just said, okay, I'm out, and you guys got it from here, and I'm going to go really invest the same way that I work on my businesses and my teams. I'm going to go invest in my family. I'm going to go invest in my nephews and nieces and my my sister and brother-in-law and my, everybody over in Greece that lives there already, cousins, etc., and my wife and kids. And I'm just going to be 100% present every single day in what we're doing and what the family plan is that day. And it was beautiful, man. It was truly one of the first times that I really feel like I took a vacation and really refreshed my creativity in my brain and filled up my cup, because we can do a little bit of that, but you and I are probably always trying to do a little bit, right? Like the Kobe, the Kobe Bryant method. It's like, if I can train, get up early, train, recover, train again, recover, I can do 2 training sessions more than my competition, right? I can outwork my competition. But the reality is you only have so many hours in the day, and we still have to be husbands and fathers as well, right? And friends, right? We have friends that we want to be friends to. So analogy I heard, because I love the whole Kobe Bryant work method, right? But the analogy I heard that one of my coaches told me, he's like, you can be a Kobe Bryant, but Kobe Bryant is limited on what he actually can do. And hear me out. Because you can either be a Kobe Bryant or you can be a Gary Buss. Gary Buss has 10 Kobe Bryants. He is infinitely scalable. And while he's got 10 Kobe Bryants working that hard, Gary Buss is on a yacht with his family. So what do you want to be? You want to be the Kobe Bryant that's eventually capped at your potential, right? Capped at your time. Or do you want to create hours in the day by developing your team and getting 10 Kobe Bryants and then 12 and then 15 and 20. Like that guy was infinitely scalable because he was trying to find those guys with that work ethic. So it just depends on who you want to be, right? I don't know about you, but I like the whole having 10 Kobe Bryants on my team, right? While I'm on a yacht with my family.
I like that too. So in regards to just kind of from the Greece perspective, and when you said like it gave you time to kind of recharge and get your creative back, like I guess when you got those urge to want to go do something from the business perspective, did you set the expectation with your team ahead of time? Like, hey, I'm going to take 2 weeks. Basically, when you were there and you had urges to know how Johnny Slicks is doing or whatever else is going on or your coaching product is going, what did you do to kind of get through that particular, like, it's almost like an addiction. Like you almost had to like get, like, did you have withdrawals for like a couple of days or how did that go?
100%. Like first 24, 48 hours is like, oh, I just want to like do something. I want to check something. I want to make sure things are going. Honestly, the way that we work is, it was like reading the news. I would get end of day reports. So because of the time difference, I'd wake up, I'd have an end of day report. And then, if I wanted to respond, I could, but I typically didn't. And I would just kind of get end of day reports. It was like reading the ticker or the news. I got a news blog every day about what's going on. And, for the most part, there was little to no involvement that I needed, but that goes, and that is a representation of how you've developed your team and how you've set expectations and also how you've given them the opportunity to grow. It's much like a child, right? We love our kids. We absolutely love our kids. One of the worst things that we can do is do things for them, which is so counterproductive, right? Because we want to help them. We want to do them. We see them struggling. We want to provide. But what you're doing by helping your kid all the time is you're robbing them from figuring things out and creating that courage and confidence that they can do things, that they can solve problems. And it's so contradicted to our heart as a parent, but it's the same thing with your team, right? Like you can't rush in and solve every problem. Even if you have the solution, even if you know what the answer is, you're taking that opportunity away from them from rising to the occasion and creating their own confidence in that environment.
Makes sense. I like that. Gabe, before I kind of pivot on to, I have something I want to talk about for sure about Tribe, but do you have anything on the Greek vacation to touch base on?
No, man, I love the leadership stuff. And I think you hit the nail on the head with all of it, man. It's something that I try to do, obviously on a much lesser scale. I'm not, the number one, not the entrepreneur. I lead a team. It's a very small team. And, but I think it's hard, and it's always interesting to hear that stuff because I know Jason lives it very much of like, trying to always be on and stuff. And it has its pros for sure, but it also has its cons. So I think finding that balance and just realizing the point where it's not that you're not prioritizing work, which is important. It's that you're finding the time to prioritize family, which is just as important. And I think that once you realize that, it makes sense, right? So
I like that you're using the word. I like that you're using the word prioritize versus balance, because I think a lot of people try to. I know a lot of people have this thing where like, well, I'm trying to find work-life balance. I'm like, how's that going out? How's that going for you? Because I've never met somebody who's found work-life balance, right? And it's because there's no such thing. You have one singular life. You don't. This is not. Was that show Severance? I didn't watch it, but I have the idea. But like you go in the elevator and you flip personalities to the work personalities. You forget about your home, and then you go home. You forget about work. Like that's not a reality. You have one life. Right? You have one singular life and what you do and how you work it. So really what it comes down to is prioritization of the things that matter most. When people say, I don't have enough time. No, that's not true. You have enough time. You have enough time in your day for the things that matter most to you and your life.
Yeah. It's like workouts. I mean, we talk about this a lot on the show is people, you'll hear people say, oh, I don't have time. I was giving a talk the other day at a wellness symposium for a bunch of first responders. I'm like, dude, anybody who's here who says they don't have time, that's just, it's false. Like it's just, we have to prioritize it, right? I mean, if you're telling me you don't have 20, 30, 40 minutes to work on your own, work on your fitness for yourself, like you're not prioritizing effectively somewhere. Something's going on because
dude, you know the deal. Like I just had
Yeah.
clients in the day. Like we did 10 swings, heavy swings, 10 swings on the minute, every minute for 10 minutes.
Dude,
Smoked. 10 minutes done. So don't give me the bullshit. It's not a priority for you. It's not one of your top priorities. Let's just call a spade a spade. It's not a priority for you.
I want to ask.
I do think before we move, I do think a piece of it though, and it's something that we try and challenge or at least educate a lot from what we do at Train Hard, is that I do think that some people genuinely have the misconception that it does require 45 to 60 minutes to like make any sort of a difference. And like the three of us here know how much of, complete BS that is. Cause like you just said, there are some days where shit hits the fan, man. And I go in there at 15, 20 minutes and I get some of those sessions. And it's funny, like lately, cause we have two very young kids and there's more times than in my past that I have very, very little time to get in there. Yeah. Some of those are like my best sessions because I go in and I know that I can't look at my phone. I know I can't bullshit.
You're super intense.
Yeah. Like I don't even have really time to like waste with warm up. I'm like, dude, I got to get my heavy squats in and then I got to do something that's like hard. And I'm in and out in 20 minutes. And like thinking back on it, like some of those days, I'm like, man, like I think I made more progress that day than when I have plenty of time today. I spend 75 minutes in the gym. I'm dilly-dallying. I'm checking Instagram. I'm like recording videos, doing all this stuff. And I probably I wouldn't go as far as say less effective, but maybe just as much. And the time difference is huge.
It's just the consistency. Like that's what people are missing is like, it's not about doing, 2000, I don't know, Jason, 2012, Jason Khalifa CrossFit workouts. That's not the standard, just so everybody knows, you know what I mean? That's not the life standard. It's about the consistency of doing something every single day forever.
That's it.
It doesn't matter what it is. It's just like, but then you compound those micro consistencies with your diet, with the way that you work, the way you taking walks and things like that. And that 10-minute workout combined with proper nutrition and eating the right foods, combined with the right sleep habits, with the right vision and consistency and all the other areas of your life, you look back in 6 months to a year, you're like, man, I really didn't do much. And I'm radically different. Radically.
Nick, let me ask you something that kind of ties in the whole vacation thing we were talking about and taking a break from work and this fitness component. So on vacation, I'm assuming that you did something physical. You worked out in some way, right? Like you didn't take a step back from. And
no, every day we did some,
yeah. And Jason does hotel workouts all the time. If I travel, now I've gotten super into running, so it's super easy. You can bring your running shoes, run anywhere. So some people would say, hey, like that's not balance. Like you should go on vacation. You should really relax, like not do that stuff. And again, the three of us here knows that that's BS. When it comes to the work stuff, like I have heard, I'm trying to think, like Gary Vee talks about this a little bit, maybe even like Alex Hormozy. Like there's also like this train of thought where like, if you just enjoy work and work is the thing that like lights you up and brings you fulfillment, like who's to say that you do need to take 2 weeks?
I'm to say.
Right. So what's kind of like, give me your perspective there on like that side of things.
So it's funny. I'm in a mastermind with a bunch of like 7-figure, 8-figure, 9-figure CEOs. And we're getting coached on this concept. This was over a year ago. And everybody, all of us were like, dude, we like to work. We enjoy it. They're like, yeah. Like, got it. We've heard this for 20 years. We understand. You wouldn't be in the room. You wouldn't be where you're at if you didn't like the work. The reality is most people keep one foot on one side of their right brain and one foot on one side of their left brain. Okay. To fully rejuvenate, to fully recover, you have to give that side of your brain rest. And it's counterproductive to who we are as entrepreneurs and the people that go out there and create amazing products, amazing businesses, amazing innovations, right? But it's like you hear those guys that, you get stuck on a problem, and the real smart guys are like, I'm gonna put this to bed for 24 hours. I'm gonna take a walk, and I'm gonna go take a walk through nature. I'm gonna go on the beach and just because it gives your body this down regulation to where you see things from a different perspective. Okay. Our brains need to rest. Like, I don't listen, I'll argue this to the day I die, because now I've felt it, right? Now I understand the value of decompression. I understand the value of free days. If you follow not Gino, what's his name? You guys gotta who wrote Who Not How?
I don't know, we could probably pull it up, but we will pull up who wrote Who Not How. But yeah, it's all good.
I have it. I'm trying to find it.
Oh, you're trying to find the book?
Here it is.
Sullivan.
Dan Sullivan. Dan Sullivan, man, you guys are great. Look at this. Dan Sullivan came up with this idea of how you structure your week. And it's really brilliant, because what it does is it creates a schedule for you that you operate in a one specific zone at a time. Right. So like today is my creative zone. It's my teaching zone. It's my talking zone. It's my things that create money, things that production, videos, things like that. And I stay in that mode all the time. There's no meetings. There's no business shit that happens on these days. It's podcast. It's making videos. It's writing copy. It's whatever I need to do to move the business forward, right? The things that move the business forward. So I'm completely in my creative mindset that whole day. I'm not having to jump back and forth across my brain, right? And then on the other days, then it's like it's all meetings, it's all business, it's all in the present, it's solving problems, right? So now I'm in the logistical side of my brain, the problem solving part of my brain. And then there's a day that I don't do any of that. None of it. It's family time. It's 100% family time. We're riding bikes, we're painting, we're blowing up rockets, whatever that is. I'm not thinking about work. I'm not doing that. So I'm partitioning different parts of my brain to be maximum amount of effectiveness.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be effective, right? You want to be the least amount of work, right? Like, let's think about lifting. I want the movement to be the least amount of movement, but the most power, the most strength,
the biggest impact,
biggest impact, right? The biggest ROI. I want to invest the least amount of money with the biggest ROI. Well, that's what you're doing when you start doing this. Like we talk about vacation, you talk about holiday, taking those days off to where it's truly regenerative. And what's amazing is you come up with the best ideas, like everything that comes like after that is like, holy shit. Like I just needed to pause and let my body rest and take a freaking breath. And all of a sudden the creative juices start flowing again. And especially if you're in that logistical thing, like you're not coming up, you're just solving problems. You're not coming up with the next innovation, the next product, the next, solution to people's problems. You're just reacting constantly.
Yeah. You're also not giving yourself time to have like uninterrupted thinking. Like one of the things that to me throws my creative process out the window is, like I have to be really good about setting those times with like no notification, like knowing that it's a time, which used to be super early in the morning. Now it's a little bit different, but just having a time where you know that you can't be thrown any curveballs. And I think that's important. Do you think that much structure though, Nick, is like the utility of that is unique to you and your personality, or like can everyone benefit from being
and the fact
that
you're talking
structured?
about the full day, I think is something I'm curious about too. Like to your point, Gabe, like, so when I break up, like I think about it more like being present on a specific thing like this, but I couldn't do like 8 hours of podcast. Like I feel like I would break down. Like, do you think that's unique to
No.
Gabe's
It's not 8 hours of podcast. It's like, hey, I'm going to do a podcast. I'm going to do that on this specific day. But it's also the same day that I do all of my filming for my videos. So it's like the outward stuff, right? The part that Jason is on. But there's also work that you have to do. It's like we run businesses. What a lot of people don't realize is there's a lot of work that goes into running businesses, right? Everything that you have to do on the back end, right? Cash flow, financials, team management, hiring someone, et cetera. There's work that needs to be done. And then you do those on a separate day. So that you're not like 1 minute, you're like, I'm having to deliver this line. I'm trying to make this video so that it either inspires, motivates, educates people, right? And then I'm jumping into a meeting about cash flow and taking, you know what I mean? Like you're all over the place. Stay in one lane, stay in that zone. Stay in that zone of genius and let it run for the whole day, because this is what happens is when you can give yourself that time at the end of the day, you're actually left with more energy. If you're switching back and forth, it's one of those days when you go home, you're like, I'm just fucking white. I'm white. It's because it takes so much energy to flip-flop back and forth.
That's really interesting. I hadn't thought about it through that lens at work. All right. I'm gonna have to report back to you on a few things. I'll talk to you more about. No, I hadn't thought about that. Like, because you're going from because you and I, we have very similar kind of, I guess, in a way, jobs, right? Where you're outward facing, you're blah blah blah, but then you're also running a business. So before this call, I'm having like a purely business call, like pure business, and then now this is more like the creative side. And I get what you're saying. So.
Because anyways, man, you got to switch gears.
How much is your brain, and you can be honest, how much is your brain still a little bit stuck thinking about those conversations about pure business?
No, dude. Well, I mean, now that I get to talk to you, you're all I'm thinking about right now. But, but no, this has been. I didn't know this was where we're going to take this conversation, but that's why I love podcasts, man.
But Nick, I'll just bring up, and sorry to cut you off, Jay, but I was thinking about this because we have a lot of dads and husbands that listen to this, and some entrepreneurs, obviously. But I think that the part that I immediately went to the analogy is like, if you have like a serious conversation with your wife about something, and then I have to come in and either a podcast or a work conversation, like I am 100%. I'm like 60% still over there, right? Yeah. And that's the perfect example of exactly what you're talking about.
Yes.
Because talk about switching gears. That's not even going from creative work to business work. It's going from like family to work. And I mean, that analogy came up, and I think it depicts exactly.
Yeah, you're splitting you're splitting your mind of where it needs to be instead of being 100% all in. You're in that you're still halfway in that difficult conversation, so you're not delivering. So, for instance, Jason, you have to do a very serious business conversation with a partner, funding partner, whatever, right? A little intense maybe. And then you're like, okay, now the filming team shows up, Tim shows up, we're doing a workout, and I've got to be on, and I've got to deliver this video with the energy. And hey, maybe it comes out okay, maybe it doesn't, but how do you feel? And then what is the energy expenditure to make that happen on the back end? Like, what is you know what I mean? What are you left with? Because if you just did that, if you were just focused on that, you're going to be jived because you're doing something that actually gives you energy.
Yeah, I mean, you're hitting the nail on the head for me because, again, we have very similar. Like today, I'm actually filming for something called the Def Reset with Jocko Fiel. Like, awesome. And like you're hitting the nail on the head for me. I can relate to this. I think other people who maybe aren't in like the type of space that we're in, I still think there's takeaways for them that are just a little bit different. And just the way you're talking about utilizing different areas of your creative brain versus your business and problem solving brain. I love it, man. I want to ask you about something because I was listening to an old podcast you're on. I thought it was really interesting. You used a term and I wanted to bring it up to you. Every week for a long time, we've been hosting a men's club meetup here in the Bay Area. It's something I find a lot of fulfillment in, and bringing men together to find their tribe, to do something hard, shoulder to shoulder, and that iron sharpens iron mentality. And this is from a podcast list too, talked about earlier in your childhood, maybe 10, 11 years old, you had a hard time finding your quote tribe. And it caused you to get into trouble because you found a tribe through like a gang. So I want to talk about the power of a tribe for a man, and then what could have been done differently as a child so that maybe our children feel that sense of tribe that you didn't feel and you found in something negative.
So first of all, let me like shore up that story a little bit. The reason why that I didn't have the tribe, the reason why I didn't have what I was looking for is because strictly I did not have a male role model, a positive male role model in my life. I didn't have a positive father figure in my life. So if you look at statistics, both for young girls and boys, shit kind of goes sideways when they don't have a positive male role model in their life. They don't have that father in their life. We can like look at Juvie, put a bunch of mugshots on the wall and go, how many of them don't have fathers in their life? It's going to be like 99% of them. Okay. So that was my situation. And because I didn't have that, I wasn't in sports, I wasn't in jiu-jitsu at the time, I wasn't doing all the things that I do now, and that my kid does. I went to go look for it because we on a genetic level seek out and require a tribal environment. We're tribal people. We really are. And in the absence of that positive tribe or that positive male role model, there is an evil out there waiting for that individual to show up. Now, if you don't have it as a man, right? How does that show up? That shows up in ways of essentially vices and distractions, right? Chasing happiness. Things that are going to give you that dopamine, tobacco, alcohol, pornography, gambling, whatever the things are. But the thing that you'll notice about that is it's a black hole, right? Like no matter how much you drink, you never get enough drink, right? It doesn't satiate the issue. So it's the same. I think it's the same thing is we feel like we want to be a part of something bigger than ourselves. And when we don't have that, there is a negative out there that understands that and is got open arms ready to receive it. So in my thing, it was a gang down in Florida and I didn't have it. And it's like cliche of like, oh, you need to be a gang. Well, we have an initiation process and now you're a brother. Now you're part of the family, and we're going to take care of you. And we stand by each other and we take care of each other and et cetera. And that's what I did. And that's what happened to me until, cops got involved a couple years later and I was the last man standing in an interrogation room. So
from you talk about, yeah, I know I listened to you talk about, going to juvie. I want to say you went to juvie 3 times.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so how do you now, talking to men, because you also mentor a lot of men, I know you have your 4 pillars, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's fitness, discipline, tribe, and belief.
Belief and tribe, yeah.
Belief and tribe.
Yep.
Maybe that's a good segue into that. Talk to me about those 4 pillars. And I mean, obviously, on this show, we're all about the fitness and we're also about the discipline. But what is, when you say the word belief, what does that mean? And how do you break those down? Because I imagine through your journey, obviously, growing up without that male figure and then getting into the Marines later on, which I definitely want to talk about, of course, but talking specifically about the 4 pillars, fitness, discipline, belief, tribe. What do those mean to you and how do you support men on those right now?
Well, I think they're symbiotic of each other, right? Like we have them inverted really, where if you look at them, if you scale back, it's actually reversed. Tribe's on the bottom. And the reason why we say them in the order that we are is we have this reason. But if you really look at it, tribe is the foundation of the why. Tribe is the why. Why do you push yourself so hard? Why do you do the things that you do? Why do you get up early? Why do you sacrifice? Why do you choose hard over easy? Why do you do all the things? Why do you push to make more money? Why? Is it for yourself? Or is there somebody in your life that you feel deserves and requires you to be the very best version of yourself, to create, to protect, to be the provider? You know what I mean? So a lot of times when we find, and actually there's a Simon Sinek thing about why great leaders inspire, or how great leaders inspire. Short TED talk. And he's basically talking about from the business standpoint of why certain corporations win over the others. And it's because they attach the why, and they attach how you actually impact human beings is the why. Well, Josh and I have found that over the years, for the men that we work with, for the tribe that we're building, their why is really their kids. It's their wives. It's their family. It's their tribe. Men, when you start saying like, well, I want to just look good naked. And then I go, okay, you want to look good naked. Okay, this is what you're going to do. You're going to wake up at 4 a.m. and you're going to go out in your garage when it's 15 degrees and you're going to do 100 burpees for time. Do you think the guy that wants to look good naked is going to wake up at 4 a.m. when he's laying next to his hot ass wife and get out of bed when it's 15 degrees in his garage and go do 100 burpees for time at 4 a.m. because he wants to look good naked? No.
It's got to be deeper.
It's got to be deeper. But when I start thinking about what kind of son do you want to raise? When your sons as he grows older, what is the example you set for him? When you look in the mirror, when you take your shirt off at the pool or the beach and your son sees you, what do you want him to see? Because whatever he sees, he's going to become. You are a reflection of his future. When we run the Squire program and I've got a dad over here and a son over here, and I got the dads lined up on this side and the sons listed up on this side, I can go, he looks like a pumpkin, look over here. Kid looks like a pumpkin. Kid looks like a pear. Oh, yep, that must be his kid. Jack dad, look over. Oh, look, there's a Jack kid over there. They must be. What is the reflection that you want your son to see? Because whatever that is, that's what's going to be. And when you start thinking about like that and being that type of man for your wife, being that type of man for your kid, and truly setting the example, they're like, I want to be better for my child because it's not even about me at this point. Now that gets you up at 4 a.m. and you can do burpees, 100 burpees for time at 4 a.m. in 15 degree weather because it's no longer about you. So let's reverse engineer this whole thing, right? Let's go back to fitness. So fitness, I feel it is a gateway drug for success because of what it does, right? What happens when a person doesn't even know this? They have limited.
It's a gateway drug for success. I haven't heard it referred that way, but I'm probably going to steal that.
Just steal it. I don't even think I said it, but it really is a gateway drug for success because think about it. What happens to somebody who does that? And you've seen it, Jason. You've seen this with your own eyes. A dad who doesn't work out, right? Doesn't train. He's overweight. He's weak. And all of a sudden he starts the process. He starts on the journey. After a few weeks, not even a few weeks, maybe a week, he starts feeling better. He sees himself in the mirror differently. He takes his shirt off. There's no change in a week. You and I both know there's no change in a week. But why does he look in the mirror and go, damn, I look different? When you don't. It's a perception and a dopamine response of doing that work, right? So now, if I can get somebody just starting on a basic fitness and nutrition routine, okay, that's not all they have to do, right? And I'll explain why here in a second. But if I can get them started on that, that is the start of the process. That is the start to everything changing, a better relationship with your significant other, a better relationship with your kids, a better leader at work. Everything you do is better because now we move into the discipline. The guy who goes to the gym every single day, regardless of the outcome, regardless of how he's feeling, what his feelings are, is a dangerous man because you're doing something that is difficult, that is inconvenient, and that gives no immediate satisfaction. There's no immediate gratification because what you're doing is you're investing in a training session that won't pay dividends until 6 months down the road. If I work out today, it doesn't change anything. It's the consistency of having discipline, of doing it every single day, regardless of how I feel, for an outcome down the road. I'm delaying gratification. Now you've got an individual who understands the power of fitness and what it makes them feel like. And it also, now you have a disciplined individual that does something, regardless of how they feel, every single day, and delaying gratification for a future result. How does that show up in other areas of your life? If I can do that with a training session, and maybe it's 10 minutes. You know what I mean? Doesn't matter. But if I can delay that gratification, how is that showing up in my investments? How is it showing up in my communication to my wife? It's going to start bleeding over to all other areas of your life. And then we get into the third one. Real quick with discipline, I like to use this analogy. Do you think Olympic athletes only train when they feel like it, or when they feel good, or they feel like training?
That's all right. We had Leif Babin on, and remember he said the exact same thing. He didn't use the Olympic athlete, but he said dude, because we asked him the question of what do you think is more important? It was like discipline.
Discipline or motivation was essentially
discipline or motivation.
Yep.
And he goes, dude, discipline. He's like, because you're not always motivated to go work out, right? You're not always motivated to go train to be the Olympian, right? But you have to have the discipline to do so.
Olympians train regardless of how they feel. That's how you get to the Olympics. That's how you get a gold medal, is doing the work regardless of how you feel, delaying gratification, restricting, and doing the work every single day, regardless of how much work it is, little or more, it doesn't matter. And you do that over and over and over. And that's what makes Olympians. That's what makes greatness. It's not the big bang thing. It's the little things done every single day, regardless of how you feel. That's called discipline. Motivation is a drug. Motivation is like cocaine. You hit a line, whoa, I'm good. And then what happens? It fades. And motivation fades every single time. There's nothing you can do about it. It will fade because it's like a drug. So going back to belief. Belief is where people fail. And I'm not talking about your personal faith in God or, some whatever God you believe in. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about belief in yourself. What I have found in myself and working with thousands of men, entrepreneurs, I do a bunch of executive level coaching, organizational coaching, et cetera. And the number one thing that holds people back, the number one thing that keeps them achieving greatness is their limiting beliefs. Whether they believe that they can achieve something or they can't. Belief in oneself. And I think we're in an environment now, and it's always been this way, but now more than ever is we have this comparison thing. We see this stuff. Comparison is the thief of joy. But if you step on the field, Jason, and you've got a fitness competition that you're going to, take your mind back to CrossFit Games, right? You take your mind back. You step onto that field, and you see someone, and you're like, I've been watching him train. I see how he looks right now. I see how he's moving. He looks like he's better than me. He's probably going to beat me. What do you think the outcome of that competition is going to be?
Yeah, right, the event's already over.
It's already over.
You already lost. Yeah.
You lost. But if you step on that field going, I am going to smash everybody here. I'm going to smash everybody here. That's a different mindset. That's a different competitor showing up. That if every single world champion that I've coached or come in contact with, I've always asked, hey, did you picture yourself winning? Did you picture yourself on the podium with the gold medal, with the belt, with whatever the thing is that you're winning? Can you see that? And every single world-class athlete, I was actually talking to about a year ago, I was talking to Kevin Ross, I think 2 or 3 times Muay Thai world champion. I don't know if you Google him and go Google some of his fights.
Dude,
sick.
Muay Thai is gnarly, especially in Thailand, bro.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. World traveler, world class, won multiple world titles. The guy's a straight killer. So much that I guess he got hooked up with Gina Carone. So he's that badass.
But obviously, to your point though, he had visualized himself on the podium. He had visualized himself winning.
Check this out.
Yeah.
I said, Kevin, do you ever do that? And he laughed. He goes, actually, I photoshopped a picture of me with the world belt on, and I printed it out and I put it up on the mirror and on my fridge and everywhere.
Yeah.
That's how hardcore he created the belief that he was a world champion. And so that's where people fail. And what's crazy is you have let's talk about a con artist. How does a con artist become successful? Because he believes his own bullshit so much that he gets other people to believe it as well. But then we have the real ones have imposter syndrome, which I'm sure you've had, right? You're like, who am I to be talking about this, saying this, being in this video? Even if we're great, even if you won multiple things, you still have this self-doubt, right? Who am I? Who am I to be doing this? Maybe I'm washed up. Maybe I shouldn't be talking about this. That is a limiting belief. And it tells me anytime that you have an imposter syndrome, just tells me that you're actually real. And I've felt that too. Like I'll do, I found out there was a guy, it's a shame. He's making millions coaching people. He's like super hardcore. He admitted behind closed doors that he bought an ice bath and he does it for 5 seconds for an Instagram reel. 15 seconds, maybe 15 seconds.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
And Jason, on the other side of that, I'm over here doing 3 to 5 minutes, calling myself a bitch.
Right.
I'm like, I'm such a bitch. Like, and I think that I'm a bitch. And this guy literally pays the money because he's making millions a month to put on Instagram reel how hardcore he is. And he does 15 seconds and gets out. And he's like, oh, I just do that for Instagram. That shit sucks. I'm not doing that. And I think that I'm not worthy, that I think that I'm a bitch and I'm not doing the work. Isn't that wild?
Dude, I think it's the belief. I mean, so just to kind of reiterate, it starts with having a tribe, which, you know, what I'm hearing is having like a strong why. It has to be deeper than like 6-pack abs. And that's something I deeply align with and I prescribe to. Then fitness is this gateway drug because then it starts to lead into this discipline, which discipline enables you to have delayed gratification, which I haven't heard that referred to that way. So I love that. And then obviously having belief in yourself. The con man example is pretty powerful actually, because I mean, those guys can get you to, you know, buy snake oil or whatever the old saying
whatever
is.
it is.
Yeah. Dude, I love this, man. Thanks for bringing those down. I love it.
Like, I actually did, not to plug it, but I did a course on limiting beliefs. I did 14 chapters on the 14 different limiting beliefs that people have and how to overcome them. And it's pretty powerful because I do believe it's the number one thing that holds people back. It's whether, you're my past failures mean my future failures. I'm too old. I'm not smart enough. My teacher said this. I mean, we go through all of them. But there's a course that I ran, that I created a digital course, video basis, and some other things that you have to do in there. But solely compounding limiting beliefs, because I think that it's so. I really do believe it's the number one thing that keeps people from reaching their full potential.
You know, I think that the flip side to it too, though, and you mentioned this in the beginning, is that these four are very intertwined. You can't really have one without the other three, because, you know, when some people hear belief, they might think of like, you know, this idea of like, you can just manifest being successful, manifest being the champion. Like, you also have to be disciplined. You also need the fitness. You need the other things.
You do need to believe that. You do need to believe and
the belief alone isn't going to get you
that, so you can manifest it. But then it goes into all the other stuff that's the non-physical work that needs to be done, right? Like, you still have to do the non-physical, but then it transitions to, okay, well, what does that mean? Well, now I need to create a plan in place and do the physical work to make that happen. And sometimes the physical work, ladies and gentlemen, is taking a day off. Going back all the way to that.
Right. Having the discipline to do the thing that's outside your comfort zone, which for some people, not everyone, but for some people, some of these type A hard chargers like you and Jay, is taking a step back and realizing that that's the important thing that's not going to give you an immediate benefit, but is setting you up for that delayed benefit down the road, because now you're fresh, more clear-minded, able to tackle all those things.
Right.
Based on what you said, can a man find his tribe before starting a family?
I think you should. I have guys. There's a guy. He actually just messaged me a little bit ago. I had a guy that joined the Agogi when he was 17 years old.
And just for clarity, the Agogi is
that's
our
development program. Yeah, it's our development program where we incorporate fitness and we incorporate all those pillars, right? Real quick, we started out just fitness, and then guys were failing. And we're like, damn, are we bad coaches? Like, they would do really good, and then all of a sudden they would self-sabotage. And that's really where the coaching started taking place. I'm like, oh, men don't have a fitness and nutrition problem. They have a mindset problem. They have a trauma problem. That's their issue, because they go good, and then it's like a roller coaster. They'd fall off the wagon, right? They'd track their food for 2 months, 30 days, whatever, and then they would quit. Well, why are you quitting? And then, so we got into the actual psychology of men and what they were dealing with. And that's really where the coaching kind of came into play with the Agoge was, oh, we need to fix the space between the ears. If we can fix the space between the ears, these guys will be way more successful at these other things. Because, we self-sabotage and then limiting beliefs start to happen and, whatever. But sorry, I derailed. What was the question?
Do you have a family?
Yeah, it was just because when you mentioned tribe, you mentioned, kids for a lot of people and wives for a lot lot of people.
Yeah, so the 17-year-old. So
yeah.
I asked him, I said, and I already kind of knew the question. I was like, so why 17 years old, why are you here? He said, because he wanted to join the Marine Corps. He wanted to get married. He wanted to have a family. And he goes, I don't have a father that has given me the tools and resources to be the leader that I'm about to need to be. So I'm investing now. I got a 25-year-old and we got some young guys in there, but it was just impactful to see a 17-year-old, like, what were you doing and I doing at 17?
Right. Nothing.
How does he? So that's one of the things I think about a lot about the internet is that the internet gets a bad rap for so many reasons.
Of course. Yeah.
But dude, if you're a 14-year-old kid right now and you want to be a total badass, the amount of education
the world is your oyster.
World is your oyster. You could do anything you want right now that I couldn't when I was that age, right? So to pull on that thread, right? You got a 17-year-old who somehow becomes internally motivated and then seeks you out and now wants to become a part of this group. So I guess my question is, and maybe this is just another question along Gabe's, is like, if you don't need the family, like the family to me is like a really easy, like, okay, I want to reach my potential as a husband, as a father. It's really important to me. I need to do these things for my tribe. And that is going to be a deep why for me forever. That's really clear for me.
I think what you're getting to is, I think what it is he sees these young guys are starting to see the pain that we went through of becoming fathers and becoming the right kind of husband, the right kind of father, right? Because we didn't have a manual. There's a problem here. There is no transfer of generational knowledge from one man, from a father to a son anymore. Why are you and I having to figure this out in our late 30s and 40s? We should have had a father that is almost as, we should be better than our father, but our father should have said, this is how you lead. This is how you parent. These are the lessons. These are the morals that you need to have. This is the code that you need to have. This is how you treat your wife. This is how you date your wife, and you keep the romanticism alive in your marriage for years to come, right? When you have a child, this is how you show up. This is how you prioritize your day, right? That fitness is important. Like, we didn't get this transfer. There is no transfer of generational wisdom anymore. And that's what we need to bring back. So I think that these young people are seeing the mistakes that we made, the mistakes that their parents made, and going, you know what? I don't want to bring that into my life. I don't want to bring that in a relationship. So why don't I just become the man that I'm supposed to become now? And I'll skip all the bullshit. So when I do I do find the woman of my life, my soulmate, right? I don't have to go through all of that. I can just be there and be present and be the man from the gate that I'm supposed to be. And then when the kid comes, I'm already the father. Not that you're not going to make mistakes. We're all going to make mistakes, but that I have the network, the mentors, the men in my life that are going to help me solve these problems as I continue to grow my family. Those guys, and we've seen it. We've seen it. I've seen the guys who have gone through some of our courses that are like 20, 21 years old. Next thing you know, they get married, they have kids. Like, we've seen it over this period of 6 years, where they go from a young kid to a man with a wife and a child. And you know what? It looks completely different than the way my early 20s did when I had a kid at 20 years old. Looks completely different. They're already wired in. They're doing the things that I'm doing now at 42, but he's 22.
Yep.
Now think about what that man's life is going to be at from then to 42. He is going to be exponentially more successful than I. And I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about his overall life, because of how wired in he is, how tuned in he is to what matters. His work ethic, his fitness, his discipline, his belief in himself, that he can achieve great things. He can be the husband that he needs to be. He can be the father that he needs to be. And he has the resources and the people to make that happen.
Nick, I really quick, I want to go back to the, just wanting 6-pack abs not being the kind of motivation for people.
I want an 8-pack.
Because two things that I noticed, I was going through your Instagram and watching a bunch of your videos, really good stuff out there. We'll link that in the show notes.
Thank you.
And two of your pin posts, one was kind of like asking men, if you're having, if this is where you are, we're here to help. And the first thing that you said was if you don't have the body that you're proud of, or is the body that you should have. And I don't think that you did that by accident. I think that was very intentional. Yeah. And then the second thing is another, your pin post so people can get to know you from the beginning, is you posting a picture of you and your wife. And when you said when you guys were at your worst and when you were at your best, and it was a progress picture. It was, when you were clearly, overweight, not very proud of how you looked, and now super jacked, really looked the part. Why is that? Why is the aesthetics? Why is how you actually look so important to your message and what you're trying to get out there to men? Because obviously the motivation of just having 6-pack abs, I get that not being the why, but why is that actually such an important part of the end result that men should be trying to get?
And first of all, I don't, listen, being ripped past 40, I think is just one thing, the necessity and cool. I can't wait to hit 50 and being ripped past 50 and then ripped past 60. You know what I mean? And I'm actually very proud of those fat photos. I love posting those fat photos because I love looking back and going, because the reality is that guy chased comfort. He was chasing happiness. He was chasing comfort. At the same time, he hated himself. He hated himself. He hated his life. He was, depressed and anxious and overly stressed. And even though he was chasing, doing all the things that you're supposed to make you happy, all the food and the relaxation and the alcohol and, throwing caution to the wind and just being free, actually had the opposite effect. And I think it does, right? I think all of those things do have the opposite effect on you. And the opposite of that is a life of fulfillment and happiness. So the reason why that I stress that is because I think it's a physical representation of those 4 pillars. It's a guy who shows up like that. I look and go, oh wow, he's disciplined, he's consistent, he delays gratification, he's living by purpose. There's something that's going on in this guy that he can say no to negative things that will not benefit him. And I think that when you see a guy like that, especially that's older, right? Especially the older dad, where you guys know, I mean, Jason, you've got to be feeling it, coming up as you're getting older from your 20s and competing, that shit's just not the same. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's not the same. It's a little bit harder. You got to diet a little bit different. It's, training. When I was in special operations, I could drink beer all night long, eat pizza, wake up at 5 a.m. and do a ruck run for 26 miles and not even be phased. If I did that the night before, I wouldn't have made it the podcast. I'd be like, I'll see you guys in 3 days. I'm going to be on the couch. You know what I mean? Right. There's a difference. Your body recovers differently. You get older. Hate to break it to everybody. We get older. So when you start seeing the old guys that are dialing their life in that much, to me, if I can get a guy to do that, all of a sudden, he starts showing up differently in other places of his life, like we talked about before. All it is a physical representation of the work he's doing overall in his entire life.
Gabe and I have gone back and forth on this a little bit with the physical look. And one of the things that we've been talking about a lot is through Train Hard, our goal is to make highly capable men that look and act the part. But I want to contribute to a man being capable to be able to run, jump, climb, lift, to be able to go do things with their kids. It's really important to me as a core vision of where I want to take it. And when we're sitting there talking about what is a singular variable that we could look at to identify if someone is getting more capable or more capable, as a singular variable, right, is just the way they look. Yes, their mile is important. Yes, their deadlift is important. All these things matter. But as a singular variable, if you start to see physical change, all of the things that you're talking about, when it comes to the discipline, when it comes to, this idea of delayed gratification, those are all critical factors to like the way you look. So yeah, man, I appreciate the way you're talking about it.
And Jay, I'll sit here and tell you right now, I don't think it's all about six pack abs. I mean, I think it's a byproduct of something, but it's like, that's not the goal, really. You know what I mean? That's not really the goal. Now, when you get into it, there's obviously like, we can get into like the health side of things and like the blood work side of things, of what fat does to your body, what fat does to your brain, what it does to your metabolism as you age, cancer, etc. Everything, right? Like your body composition affects you way more than what people want to tell you, unfortunately. Like it really, really does. But that's not what it's about. It's about the second and third order effects of that. That's what it's really about.
Yeah. I want to ask you about discipline. This is something, we haven't talked at all about being a Marine and about that process. And I think one thing that I knew about you, and then I was researching a little bit more, is the fact that you got denied because you did have a felony on your record, and you got denied multiple times. Yeah. And then, I got rejected from a college I tried to get to. I applied 4 times before I finally got in, and not the same, but similar in the sense that like you applied to be a Marine and then got rejected, and then took you 2 years.
Yeah.
And the reason why I'm using that analogy is that it requires dedication, it requires discipline, it requires a deep why for why you wanted to become a Marine, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering, what do you think that lesson was? Because you were pretty young when you went through that process. What do you think clicked in you that made you like that committed to a cause, that committed to like a journey that you would stick with it for 2 years?
It is very weird. And this is the reason why I like these kind of days, and going back to scheduling your days so that you're operating in one side of your brain than versus the other, is because the day I'm making that video, I'm talking about that video from the psychology point of.
Oh, today you're making that video?
Yes, today I'm making this video. So I love how the universe works. So I really rewind it back to, okay, so I had all those felonies, right? I got in trouble with the law. I got clear of that. I had 3 years of community service. So fast forward past all that, dropped out of school, by the way, like I'm a high school dropout. About to apply for my PhD, actually, is pretty interesting. So I'm a high school dropout to potentially a doctor in a couple years, we'll see. But I was having this conversation with another doctor in psychology, and I was kind of putting the question why. What was this? I had a why in the road, and let me explain. So I'm about 16, 17 years old. I'm making about $4,000 a week cash legally at this point, working 2 jobs from 6 a.m. to 10:30 at night. Okay. 4 to 5 days a week on my own, had a house on the beach in Panama City Beach, raking in cash. I mean, literally just raking cash in. I looked at my seniors, right? The guys that were 20, 30 years old. I mean, to me, they looked old as dirt, but I got to remind I'm a teenager. So they were probably just 35 or 40 or something like that. But in my mind, they were like 50 and 60. But I looked at their life and I go, holy shit, this could be my future. This could be my future. And it was at that moment that I decided to make a change. Now, it's not that their future was bad. I don't want people to think that I looked at them and I looked down upon them. This is me having the conversation with the other doctors. I don't think it was that. It was just not the future I wanted. So I had a why in the road that I had to take. It was either go left and continue down this road to where I would end up probably right where they are, right? Which again, not bad, super successful, making good money. Or I could take the road less traveled and go create the future that I want, even if it's unknown. So I think it comes down to two things. At first, I think it's curiosity. I think it's curiosity of what could be. If that's not what I want, what could be? Having the curiosity of creating my own life, right? And then the second thing is having the courage to take that step of the road less traveled. That might be a little bit harder because this one was already made for me. I could continue. I could have gone all in, continued on, and continue on down that progression, right? That career path. But that's not the future I wanted for me. So I went all in on this other direction. But then here's the problem, and this is kind of comes into personality, is they told me no. And when somebody tells Nick no, I have a problem with that, almost to a fault, right? Like, oh, you tell me no? I want to do this, and you think you're going to tell me no? That was your worst fucking decision in your life, man. And I became a thorn in their side. And it was almost a 2-year battle. It took me almost till 19 to get in. I mean, I had to go to college. I had 100 letters of recommendation. I had to take the ASVAB 3 different times. I had to meet with psychologists. I had to meet with senior level people. I had to get waivers all the way up, senior level peoples of the recruiting station and that part of that command, all the way to a full bird colonel. I mean, it took me 2 years, and there were setbacks. I blew my life up, left that house, left the job, going from making almost, 15 to 20 grand a month to $4.25 an hour, nights working at a movie theater so I could go to school and do this part of my life. So you have to, so like when people are looking at this, you have to really look at your life. And when you come to a fork in the road, if you have curiosity of what could be, then you have to have the courage to take that step. And I don't believe that. I think a lot of people are unhappy because they're living a life that they didn't create. They just fell into, and they just did the Groundhog Day every other day, and they just took it as it came. And the next thing you know, they look at their life and they go, "This is actually not what I wanted at all." And that's why the anxiety and the depression and the vices to kind of numb that feeling kind of comes into play. But if you could give people the courage, if you could figure out a way to give people the courage to seek curiosity in their life, and to give people the courage to take the road less traveled, even if they're not as successful as they went down this other way, they'll be exponentially more happy. Exponentially more happy.
I wasn't expecting that answer, and I loved that answer. I'm glad you're doing a video on that today, and I'm excited to watch it. That was awesome. Dude, I feel like we could talk, bro. We didn't even get into Johnny Slicks. We didn't get into a bunch of stuff. You know what I want to talk to you about today? I want to talk to you about TRT. I want to talk to you about TRT, and I want to talk to you about SSRIs. And we just don't have that much time because I want to be, but I guess TRT, Gabe and I, we just did a podcast. I just got blood work back, and we were looking at some peptides in TRT.
Yeah.
TRT, what's your hot take on TRT? And then we're having you back on the show. We're going to talk about it long form. What's the hot take on TRT?
Hot take TRT. I'll tell you this. I would not have built 2 8-figure businesses and a 7-figure business, be able to run and support and help over 100 employees plus their families and everything that I do, plus maintain a bomb ass relationship and sex life with my wife, be the father that I am to my kids at 42 years old with multiple traumatic brain injuries, multiple physical injuries, if I wasn't on TRT. What's the side effects of TRT? I don't know. Better sleep, better sex, better recovery in the gym, no brain fog, focus. Those are the side effects of TRT. I don't know what to tell you. What do you want? You want an awesome life?
Where do I sign up?
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of bullshit out there. And TRT steroids. Okay, here's the rebuttal for TRT is steroids. Go do steroids. Let me take a blood test. I'm gonna find a bunch of bullshit in your blood. Go on TRT, take a blood test. What am I gonna find? Nothing.
Just increase testosterone.
Your testosterone is going to be higher, but I'm not going to see any sort of other agents. I'm not going to see SARMs. I'm not going to see all this other stuff in your body. I'm going to see things that are already in your body that are supposed to be there. Here's the deal, gentlemen. Listen to me. 30 years old, with zero trauma, you're healthy, 30 years old, your testosterone is declining. That's a fact, gentlemen. You can say, I'm going to take Tongi out of Lee and I'm going to go smoke Bushwill Bill, from Africa, and this is going to stimulate my testicles to create, like, sure, do all of that. At 30 years old, your testosterone is declining, even if you're the healthiest person in the world. It's part of the aging process. Welcome to life. Get over it. I'm sorry. That's the way that it is. Now, we add in xenoestrogens. We add in all the stuff that's going on with our food, the quality of food, right? No activity, fat on your body, okay? TBI, trauma. All of these things, now you're compounding the issue. You're compounding the issue. And people will say, well, you shouldn't TRT until you lose weight and this thing. Well, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? What if I have a guy that is overweight, but if he goes to the gym, one workout, he's sore for 3 weeks? Because that was me when I came off TRT to have a kid, which I didn't have to, by the way. We can get into that in another podcast. But if that guy has no motivation, right? He doesn't have the physical capability to go to the gym 5 days a week to go train, or even 3 days a week, because he gets so sore because his recovery is so low, right? Well, what's the harm on getting his blood work, getting him that TRT, raising his levels to where they need to be, and then modifying it as he gets more fit, right? This is why it's important to work with a clinic and a doctor like Core Medical that does actually like look at your stuff regularly, right? Manages your protocol. Because we've done that. We've got guys that, they were on 200 milligrams of TRT because they were, 100 pounds overweight. But now as that fat comes down, your body has more access to that free testosterone because it's not being metabolized by that fat. You're more efficient. Now they only need 100 milligrams, and they're like perfect. They're firing on all cylinders. So if that is a catalyst to say, hey man, I can go train now and I'm not so sore, right? That I can go back to the gym the next day, and all of a sudden I have this energy to do the thing, and I'm like, I have this. Now I'm starting to see results. I'm starting to feel better. I'm starting to feel more motivated. I'm going to eat better. It's a catalyst. So yes, I understand. Should they lose weight first? Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's a great idea. But what if they're not there? And what if TRT could give them their whole life back? It could give them their relationship with their wife back. They can become the father that they know that they're supposed to be. And I'm coming from a person who was drastically on the other side. I was a 91. Jason, when I got out of the military, my testosterone was 91. My LH was 0.
Wow.
I went to a brain clinic, an inpatient brain clinic, when I got out for 2 weeks. And the doc was like, how's the quality of your orgasms? And I was like, they happen. He goes, I can tell by your blood work they're really shit. He's like, you need to get on TRT. Not only do you need to get on TRT, but you need to be on TRT for the rest of your life. Because you've damaged you have type 2 hypergonadism, where you've damaged your pituitary gland in your brain, signaling to your endocrine system to create testosterone to your gonads. So you have type 1 and type 2 hypergonadism, and then you have basically just aging process.
Dude, so I got my blood work done. Gabe got his blood work done, and we were looking at our markers, and my testosterone was around 540. But there's just a lot. 39.
39.
There's a lot to unpack with peptides, with different things. I feel like what I'd love to have a conversation, and we'll talk to Liz and see if we can get you on the show again to talk specifically about, like 6 other things, but in particular, this idea of like that jumpstart effect. That's an interesting place to start a conversation where, like, if a guy tries to go to the gym and they want to be on the path, they do, but they just lack all levels of motivation. And so then they get these antidepressants and all these different things.
Yeah.
And that's a really good place to start. Well, dude, look, I know today is your creative day. Today is my creative day too, because I'm gonna go film some stuff for the Def Reset. But this has been this conversation exactly hit my expectation, man. When you and I sat down at the Origin camp, I really enjoyed our time together, and
so did I. Thank you.
The connection that you made for us to Wallaroo has been really impactful for our business. And so I just want to say, like, thank you from our business side. Like, you took the time to make connections with no expectations from anything. You just connected to friends, and it's been really big for me. So,
that makes me very happy.
It's been huge. And so for anyone who wants more information about, whether it's a Gogi or, all the several other businesses you have going on. I mean, obviously we didn't even get into Johnny Slicks, which is, Black
Massive.
Friday coming up.
We just hit our first 7-figure month in October. the week before, or the month before the holiday season, which is usually like the lowest in e-commerce ever.
Dude. So where should people go? What's the best place? And we'll make sure that we put that in the podcast show notes for what is it? Johnny Slicks and Agogi, those two in particular. And then obviously go check you out on Instagram. We'll put all your links.
Yep. Instagram would be the best. That's the one that I kind of communicate the best with. So if people message me, they'll actually get me.
Dude, I love it. Well, brother, perfect. I hope you have a phenomenal day. All the best to you and the family. Keep leading, and we're definitely going to have to schedule because I want to. I have a lot more.
A lot more to dive into. That's for sure. Yeah.
All right. Well, everybody, we appreciate you guys for checking out the podcast. Make sure to go back, check out all the other awesome episodes, whether it's with Gabe and I or other incredible guests, and make sure to go check out everything that Nick has going on. And we appreciate you guys. Have a great day.